Welcome back to They Say It Takes a Village. I am so excited about today's episode because joining me here today is a woman who truly defines the term trailblazer. She's also one of the most influential people in the space of personal development, female empowerment, and luxury fashion. She does groundbreaking ventures and is globally recognized. Ghizlan Guenez Barnes is truly unstoppable. And I think I've literally manifested her being here to sit across the table from me so I can ask her exactly how she does what she does with such incredible flair. So if you're looking for a little motivation today, tune in because I promise this episode will not disappoint. So without further ado, Ghizlan.
What an introduction.
My
Thank
goodness.
you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Raya.
Guys, this interview almost never happened because we hit torrential rain the past 2 days and somehow you're here.
We're here.
And
we
I'm
made it.
so happy. Thank you so
lucky.
much. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I feel like I need to get straight into it.
Go for it.
Because I feel I've got so many questions that I'm going to bombard you with that I feel like I have to start with the first one. And honestly, in essence, who is Ghizlan? What gets you up in the morning? What would you say is the mission that you're on at the moment?
Yeah. I think it's much simpler than it seems, or, we make it to seem sometimes, but, I think.
Don't be modest.
No
pun intended.
It's the truth. It's the truth. But what wakes me up in the morning is, I think, doing things that make me feel fulfilled. Both on professional and a personal life. I don't want to say mission makes it sound like it's such a big thing and we need to find a mission, but actually we all just want to feel fulfilled and contented and. And doing things that excite us and looking forward to certain things. So I think for me from a professional point of view, that fulfillment has landed with F-Force, which is the business that I'm currently running. And it took a long journey to get me to it, but it truly, in every way, whether it's what I'm doing with women, the interactions that happen, the way I set up my business itself, having learned from my previous businesses, it gives me so much fulfillment and it gives me a lot of joy, right? And then on a personal level, actually it's around the relationships, whether it's my marriage, whether it's my family. And when it comes to mission, if you want to talk about that, I think that it is around inspiring women or allowing women to see their potential and to work towards it. And it's only because I've gone through that journey and I've had people actually mentor me and support me. And I was a certain version of myself that didn't think much of myself or what my career would look like and my future would look like. All the way to where I am today. So it's that much more personal to kind of do what I do because I'd gone through the experience.
That's actually that lived experience. There's not a single book on earth that you could read that could prepare you for it. Completely. And I find that is what changes things. It changes courses of people's lives to be able to have gone through times where you feel I could have done this better or I've potentially dropped the ball on that. It's recognizing that and moving forward and thinking, oh yeah, I know what to do now kind of thing. And that's ongoing, I find, for the rest of your life. But I feel like yours in particular, it started off quite the same as, the majority of us, with you had a proper corporate job, I think. Yes. And then you pivoted and then you pivoted some more. So take us through that a little bit. So you were working with, with Abraj, initially is investment banking.
Yes. Private equity. So it's in the finance.
In the finance, which to be honest, I feel like gives me so much anxiety because I don't even understand what that Possibly, but it must have prepared you for.
Yeah, of course. I think everything that you do in life teaches you something from a career perspective, and sometimes it's the experience in that particular field or industry, but other times it's skills and and the things that you really need in life in order to continue to advance in your career. And with that part of my life, I was there for about 12 years.
That's a long time.
And I started at a very, very young age, but also started as one of the first people in that business. And it grew quite a bit and I grew with it. And it was, it was an incredible journey. It was a journey that taught me, the value of hard work, grit, a lot of the skills that I needed to become an entrepreneur.
Can I ask, a lot of the times when I sit across the table from people, a lot of, especially experts or experts in their field, there's always a point in their childhood that almost if you sort of extrapolate to adulthood, they were always inclined to potentially do something like this. Were you entrepreneurial growing up? Did you? No?
No, I was not entrepreneurial growing up. I'd love to give you that story, but
they're like,
I was
yes,
not.
I was. And I was not. I ran it in school.
I was not entrepreneurial when I was in the corporate space. Yeah. In fact, when I was during my tenure in the corporate space, I actually worked with entrepreneurs because part of my role was to actually create mentorship programs for entrepreneurs. And to me, entrepreneurs were this different breed. Like I don't understand these people. They can do anything. And there was no way, if you'd asked me back then, that I would be an entrepreneur, that I'd say I would. So it's not your typical story of I've always been entrepreneurial. But actually, when you start understanding what entrepreneurship is, a mother is an entrepreneur, a housewife is an entrepreneur, all of us. If we're career driven, we've got an entrepreneurial skills within us.
Absolutely.
Right? So even within the corporate space, there are elements of the entrepreneurial skills that you deploy, right? So no, I was not an entrepreneur at all. But then I think,
the pivot.
It was
where was your pivot?
Moment? So I had spent so many years in that business that I felt that I was not getting any more satisfaction or fulfillment from it. And it was, I think if there was a lesson there is knowing when to quit. I was doing really well. I was getting paid really well. I was feeling very comfortable and secure. So the barriers were very high for me to leave, but I was not happy. I was not feeling fulfilled. And there was at the same time a nagging idea, something that was frustrating me, which was ultimately the Modist, right? And I think it's one of the hardest thing is to take a step to leave a place where you are very comfortable,
100%.
Whether it is your corporate, well-paying job, whether it is a marriage, even if it's an unhappy marriage, whatever that may be. But when you are in a place that you've been familiar with for a very long time, it's really hard for you to shift. And so you need to either have something that's going to pull you towards that or motivate yourself and just, bite the bullet and go for it. And this idea of not being able to shop because you're a modest dresser, not finding alternatives, being surrounded by these women was very personal to me because I dressed modestly in the financial space, but also it was personal because I felt that woman who was like incredible and diverse and was not just the Muslim hijabi woman. She was, across religions.
Just conservative.
Yeah. And was not represented beautifully in fashion and in media. And so it really fired me up.
That was the driver behind it.
Yeah, it was.
And it was just at that point, you're like, no, I'm going to just take that one step. Did you literally, is it small steps, sort of one foot in front of the other?
Yeah. It was, you get to a point of diminishing returns when it comes to your satisfaction at work. And when every day becomes hard to get up and go.
You get to the point where there's this, the level of self-fulfillment, it becomes, even the smallest tasks becomes monumental.
Yeah, exactly. But I think also, it's important that people understand that you also have to pay your dues.
Yes, 100%.
Because I think that I'm not saying that don't find a place that you're not happy with in terms of your work and what you do, but also we all pay our dues. We all still do things that are not very fun. Okay. But overall, we're more happy in what we do. And so, yeah, I mean, it got to that point. And what I did is, as I was, still working at the time, I was also researching the market. I was also kind of, that idea was starting to build. I was starting to have conversations. And it just, the more I went into it, the more right it felt.
Yeah.
And so I just
organically
at one point,
happened. Yeah.
I think you marry your intuition that is very strong around what it is that you feel you need to do together with a dose of realism, and I need to sort out my finances.
Absolutely.
I need to, plan and so on. And then you just, you take the step.
I think that's exactly, it's almost like that little magical moment where you have potentially sorted out. And I'm all for taking calculated risk. Sometimes you hear stories of these incredible people that have done all sorts of incredible things. And you think, oh, well, they went all in right from day one. But maybe they don't have your circumstances. Sure. They don't have a family to support, dependents, whatever it might be. So to go and say, I'm going to plunge headfirst into my idea without potentially having a little bit of planning, even if that means extending, what you're currently doing and working on something I find that gives you a little bit of comfort rather than panic mode.
Yeah.
And it's very important to actually do the work that's not so glamorous, which is, do you have enough savings? Are your finances in place? How will you survive if it's going to be project-based and things like that? To have these not so incredible conversations about entrepreneurship, because that's the reality, and I find that that's where I feel sometimes maybe you lose people. It's that scary realization that, yes, I have this incredible idea and I could potentially invest in it, but can I see it through? And I always find sometimes you don't have the answer to that, but can you cover your costs a little bit? I guess.
I agree.
In my very, very
I agree with you.
fundamental way of thinking about
But I'll tell you, like, people are so different.
Yeah.
And some people have, a less appetite for risk, and other people feel that what's going to drive them and give them the fire is to go all in.
Yeah.
And ultimately, if it works out, amazing. If it doesn't work out, it's going to be the biggest learning.
Absolutely.
Because
you're right.
Nothing teaches you like failure teaches you. Like nothing. All the successes in the world, all the accolades and covers of the magazines, nothing is going to change you, hopefully in a positive way, when you learn like failures
100%.
and challenges.
Absolutely. It's that getting burnt. You think, oh my gosh, never doing that again. Yeah. But it's true. People have a different appetite. I think I'm naturally always going to be slightly erring on the side of caution. But my husband, for example, a bit more of a risk taker, even me and my sister, she's a bit more it's so different. I think, it's your appetite to risk.
It's a lot of factors. Yeah. It's your appetite. It's the stage of your life that you're in. It's your mindset. It's a lot of things.
Tell us about the Modist.
What about it?
Oh, everything. I feel like it was honestly it changed the landscape. It really did change the landscape of fashion, not even just modest fashion.
Yeah.
And I feel like everyone kind of gravitated towards it. Like you said, it wasn't the hijab. It wasn't anything. It was the majority of people, just the lines, the material, everything that you were providing.
Yeah.
There was a gap.
There was a gap. I mean, look, it was really beautiful business because, first of all, it was truly filling a gap. So we were solving a problem.
Yeah.
But not only were we offering this modest dresser the clothes and the functionality, so, clothes with long sleeves and long hemlines, but actually we went beyond that and put that woman on a pedestal that she deserved. And this was a time, 2016, 2017, where when you look at the media and you look at the hijabi woman, chances are they're talking about a terrorist attack. And so to start actually showcasing hijabi women and also modest women from Europe and modest women from, different religions and walks of life. And to actually see the other side of it and break a lot of the stereotypes that the media and the fashion world had about her. First of which, that she's not interested in fashion, where in reality, she's a lover of fashion. So to actually do that, it got everyone's attention because it was really different, and it was kind of really breaking a lot of the notions that were out there.
Yeah, the stereotypes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what was also very interesting is that in essence, it wasn't so much about fashion as much as it was about empowering choice. And when you empower choice, so if a woman chooses to dress modestly or not, it's her choice. The modest happened to manifest that through fashion, but it resonated with women who did not dress modestly, because every woman resonates with the idea that if I want to live a certain way, dress a certain way, marry a certain person, follow a career path, it's my prerogative. Yeah. And I think that's where it kind of harnessed a really amazing community of women.
Well, that's it. Because I'm going to quote you here, because you once said that I think it's really important to feel a brand and experience it, especially when it's a brand that is built around a community.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that exactly just doubled up to what you created a community. Yeah. You created a brand to address community requirements and needs.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it absolutely skyrocketed.
Yeah, I think it's so important. And honestly, I think in general, it's so important to think about community versus customers. And I think that, what you harness when you build a community is far more than what you would if you just, build or create or acquire customers, right? And I think that, when you have very strong values and those values align with your community, but also you're very authentic, and they can see that, then you create this bond, and your brand becomes very humanized, and they start really feeling it and connecting with it well beyond just, buying your product. And I think that, it's something that I've done with the Modist. It's something that I've done with Queen Mode, and it's something that exists with F4s. Yeah. And I think it's just, it's just a really beautiful thing. And it's where business is going, where what consumers are looking for today. Yeah. They don't just want to buy, they want to connect with the brand.
That's it. They want to connect with the brand. The brand shouldn't be just fast moving, something quite disposable, nothing that is going to be of I guess value, so it's 100%, and I tend to do that too, even when I'm sort of shopping or if I'm looking at a particular brand, how is that community?
Especially now.
100%. I feel like now my alert is way higher.
Yeah.
But how is that brand serving the community as opposed to whatever it might be?
Correct.
And that is part of, I guess it's conscious shopping, isn't it? It's just the conscious consumer.
Yeah, it's that. But also, I think today, you buy from brands because your identity matches that.
Couldn't agree with you more.
You buy a particular brand of clothing because that's your identity. You're cool, or you're chic, or you're elegant, or you're
grungy, or
sustainability, and being green and all of that. And so I think, it's that conscious consumerism.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. But I was going to ask you, obviously you've had all sorts of different experiences.
Yes.
Looking back a little bit, do you think luck had anything to do with any of your ventures?
I believe in luck, and I believe in opportunities without a question.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody who's going to look at their journey, they'll think of moments where opportunity presented itself, and that's luck, right? But I think if you're not prepared to meet that luck with hard work, with the right mindset, with grabbing that opportunity and going forward with it, you're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to get anywhere. I feel like luck and opportunity are these points. There could be a few in your life, but the connecting line is the work that you put in, because nothing is sustainable with luck. Luck is
fleeting.
Yeah, it presents itself to you. I actually think that if you don't have the right mindset, you might not even spot luck or spot opportunity. If you're a negative person and you always see the glass half empty, you're very unlikely to spot opportunities.
So true.
Where people see it. It's when people say, you look at something and it looks like a disaster, but it's, an opportunity for someone. So it really depends on how you look at things. It's that red car theory.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. Yeah. But that's the thing. I find a lot of the times you hear people say, oh, well, they got lucky or or that was such a lucky coincidence. And I've always thought that, when you are, talking to people who I would say, just like you've almost dominated your field and your space, the idea of luck, like you said, it's almost like you saw an opportunity, which is potentially luck, but you capitalized and you really went for, expanding on whatever was given to you at the time.
Yeah.
And I think you make your own luck, essentially.
100%. I mean, luck is maybe being at the right place at the right time. But then what happens after that?
Yeah.
What happens
That's
after
true.
You could start a business, right? You could start. There's a book that I absolutely love called Outliers.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, and I absolutely love that book, and it tells you about those, being at the right time, right place, the luck, right? However, you cannot sustain success without working at it. It's very simple. Yeah, and I genuinely think that everybody gets opportunities in their lives, and it's about what you do with that. Yeah.
Again, I'm going to quote you because as I was dreaming up, manifesting you coming on here, there was one thing that obviously after just going through your amazing Instagram, there was one thing that honestly, I saw this maybe about a year ago when I was trying to set up the podcast. And I thought, that's something to think about. That's a little nugget that I have to remember. And you potentially, you did actually say, you were quoting a quote.
Okay.
So the quote is, find your passion and you'll never work a day in your life. And you negated that. And you're like, nope, that's not true.
Yeah.
What did you mean? What did you want? What was the message across?
Yeah, I meant that it's the truth. It's not. You can find your passion and you still feel like you're working. Not every day. I think what happens, there's sometimes there are statements that are very sexy and they just continue to get repeated on social media, especially.
Hustle hard, do your dream job.
Or something like this one. And they get repeated and there is a danger in that they are communicating the wrong message to people. So what I mean by that is that I'm very passionate about what I do, but there are elements of my work that I don't enjoy. But overall, I am very passionate and I love what I do. I wake up loving what I do. Some mornings I wake up, I don't want to work. I am not in the mood. Sometimes I'm frustrated, Sometimes I feel, the challenges are a lot. I'm exhausted. Yeah. But the underlying feeling or emotion is that, yes, I am, I'm getting a lot of fulfillment out of this. When you make a statement like that, it gives this impression to, let's say, the younger people that if you feel slight unhappiness or discomfort, or if your job is not giving you 100% happiness every single day of your life, then that's not your passion. It's not true. It's like telling a mom that, you have to be happy all the time raising your kids.
Oh gosh.
You adore them, but you're devoted. And sometimes you just want to get out of 100%. The house, right?
I mean, this is why I created this.
There you go.
Yeah. And that's it. It's this thing. I feel like happiness is very important. Fulfillment is very important on a grand scale.
Correct.
It's not a day-to-day thing.
Exactly.
The day-to-day, just like you said, having children is wonderful. Day-to-day. I mean, they've been home for the past month. I'm about to go wild. I mean, it's, it's insane.
Exactly.
And I think it is the same as that. I think even the reason why this one really resonated with me, because I was at a point where I was trying to do the podcast and I wasn't really sure what to do. And I, there was a lot of hard work that went into it. And because I also was doing it with a full-time job and the kids, I was like, oh my gosh, is this even worth it? And then you had said that and I'm like, that makes a lot of sense because it is hard work. But at the end of the day, so for example, when we wrap this up, I go home with a pep in my step.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
I'm happy. I'm nicer to my kids. You know, whatever that little spark, I fed it and I'm happy, you know? And I think that that's where it is. It is hard work. It is, I mean, to be able to do a lot of jobs is very, very difficult, but also at the same time, did you leave with a pep in your step?
Yeah, sure.
After a little bit of hardship, you know, and I think that goes with everything, including relationships, marriages. I mean, you're not going to look at a marriage on a day to day. Eventually, after 20, 30 years, overall, was it a good marriage kind of thing? So yeah, it was just so refreshing to be able to say that.
Yeah. I'm sure the original saying was, you know, in the right context, and you know,
yeah, I know we completely sort of tore it apart.
But that's the thing, is that when it starts getting circulated and gets taken out of context, it doesn't make sense. And I think it's important sometimes to just give that dose of realism, like just be realistic, and it's fine. Like it's okay to feel like sometimes you work and
like I don't want to do this.
You know, you're not working a day in your life.
Yeah,
no, it's normal.
Yeah. It's good to know. Just keep doing it. It's all right. It's good to have the bad days. It makes us human. Throughout this entire journey, I mean, I would say collectively with the corporate stint, then Modist, and now, I mean, are we looking at what, 20 years?
25.
My goodness.
25 years.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
In this extensive period, what would you say if you had to categorize 2 of your biggest challenges?
I mean, if I were to, being an entrepreneur, for sure, being an entrepreneur is challenging, but specifically closing the Modist. Closing the Modist was very challenging because when you start a business,
it's
and
an emotional,
like your baby,
it's an emotional aspect to it.
Exactly. And so naturally it is challenging. And then when it closes for the wrong reasons, not because it's not successful, but because of circumstances, then it makes it, you know, that much harder. But actually, what made it even more difficult for me is because what I had done through the 4 years of building the Modist was just that. And this is one of the biggest lessons that I've learned in entrepreneurship. And one of the things that I advise every entrepreneur whenever I speak to them and they ask me for advice, I say, don't just focus on the destination. The journey is so important. During the Modist, I was not celebrating anything. I wasn't celebrating the small wins, the accolades, the, you know, how much we were celebrated in the fashion space. I think in 4 years, I took 2 weeks off. So it was all in, and it wasn't the journey. It was just, okay, we need to go somewhere. Right. And then it closed. And honestly, like the community was amazing. At that point, I also was ready for it to close, if that makes sense, because when it's bittersweet. Sometimes, you know, when someone is very, very, very ill, as much as you love them, you want them to feel comfort rather than stay there selfishly for you. And I think at that point, I was ready to let go. And honestly, the closure of the Modist was the blessing that I have today, because that created a force. And there's a whole story of how that happened. But it's so important to enjoy the journey, because with entrepreneurship, you may or may not make it. That is the reality, you know? So enjoy every little moment. I love that, because it's those little wins, they kind of keep you going. Yes. And you know, the big wins are great, but the little ones, do take the time out and celebrate them. I find that I say that to my kids a lot. Yeah. But it's quite difficult to take it on as an adult, isn't it? I find you're always like, okay, great. Next, you know? Yeah. There's this constant need to keep moving, that the idea of taking a break, and I don't know, is it because we live in a fast-paced sort of society and world. I don't know if it's because of that, or is it because it's an individual thing, but it's definitely great advice, especially for entrepreneurs. And I think you're right in the sense that you don't know what's going to happen. So take that moment. Yeah. It's like life in general, right? I mean, you need to enjoy the journey, I think, across the board. And I think I understand it. It's logical. People are, they've got their eye on the
Focus.
goal and the end goal, but the loss feels so much heavier when you haven't enjoyed, what the journey of what you were building. And so I think it's a very, very important lesson, and it's one where I've taken all of that and I've made F-Force what it is today in a way that I'm not going to be there. I enjoy every day.
That's so lovely.
I've done it in a way where my team and my work and my business and my setup and everything allows me to kind of, do things with flow and ease as opposed to hard work. And I think that's the other thing. There's a lot of glorifying of hard work and hustle and nonstop and next. And your ego wants that because it kind of, you're getting somewhere. But it's, there's so much pleasure also in doing things with ease and flow.
Absolutely. There's this constant word that keeps getting thrown around, which is burnout. Yeah. Like, the idea of burnout, I feel it's almost like you speak to people and it comes up as conversation. Oh, I had burnout, but why? It doesn't have to be that way. You don't need to be pushed to that extent. But look, I get it. I find a lot of the times you have passion and you want it to work. So you need, I don't know. It's one of those things.
Do you know what it is? I mean, there's a finite amount of time that one has in a day. Yeah. And if you're starting a business, a big chunk of that is going to go to your business. And that is absolutely normal, right? If you're building a business, you're an entrepreneur, you're growing it, it's going to be that. But what I mean is there needs to be a couple of other fundamental, foundational things that are important to you that also are, looked after. Your health is one. Maybe your partnership or your marriage or your personal relationship is another one. And then with that, enjoying the journey, you create a little bit of harmony. But sometimes, if you don't know better, you kind of, you're just working and neglecting everything else.
Absolutely.
And it's just unhealthy. That's what leads to burnout. And that's what leads to, just ultimately not resentment.
You just don't feel you're almost like you just want to close up and think, I just can't do it anymore. And that's never a good place in any aspect of life. But I feel you generally, have become your own brand, though. It's not just what you run and the businesses that you run, and you have become almost a voice of a lot of topics, whether it's relationships, whether it's starting a business, whether it's whatever it might be. Has this always been something that you are kind of interested in? I mean, to be able to come out and talk on topics like relationships, for example, or having a relationship, at some point in your career and in your life, and focusing on your career previously and ages and all of that.
So, I mean, personal development in general and growth are, it's an area that's where my current business is, but it's also an area that I've always been passionate about, right?
You can tell it comes through.
I mean, it's something that was my toolbox when I was going through challenges, whether it was, when I started a business or when I felt like I didn't know enough or I was a bit lost or anxious. It was always personal development. It was reading books. It was listening to podcasts. It was doing courses. Those are the things that I did to kind of like, okay, so this is my toolbox. And I think it should be part of your life, just the way that, we drink coffee or tea in the morning, or we need to continuously learn. And the more you learn, the more you realize that you don't know much. But I think when it comes to a relationship, it's just because I'm going through that experience and it's something that I'm learning and it's something that I'm sharing with my audience because I do share part of my life with them. And I think especially that I can relate to a whole constituency of women who have been focusing on their careers. They've gotten to a certain age. I got married a year and a half ago. I was 44. So
I don't know how you've preserved, you've stopped time.
I haven't, but
gosh,
but there's a lot of women that, are going through that. And to them, it's a big conundrum, right? I mean,
it is. And I find we live in a society where the age, especially for a woman, is always somewhat a topic of conversation. I don't understand. And I feel like you address it really beautifully because it's almost like it's a little bit inappropriate. I wouldn't ask a man, what age did you start your business? What age did you get married? Why is that relevant?
Yeah.
It's my capacity to do things and how I feel and my business.
I agree, but also I have another perspective of I'm 45. What's wrong with that?
Oh, I was going to say, I'm like,
do you know what? I feel better, healthier, more alive, excited, far more confident, far more accomplished than I was when I was in my 20s and my 30s. And I feel that it's a blessing that I am alive. And every year I celebrate another year. I understand this is, generations of, societal conversations and, just the society telling us and the media telling us that we should be a certain age to be, I don't know, beautiful, or
a certain age
a certain way.
Exactly. A certain age to get married, a certain age to have children, a certain age to start a business, a certain age to start working.
Yeah, but I think we need to also, like, from our side, I'm not forcing anyone, but this is how I do things, that from my side, I celebrate age and I talk about my age and I don't have an issue talking about it. And I think that, and I'm seeing more and more women of my generation also doing that. And I think that it's only that way that you start changing the narrative. And also it's only that way that other women don't feel that there's something wrong with them if they are 40 or 35 or whatever, and they haven't gotten married. So I think that I've never had an issue with that, with age. And it was surprising that when I talked about it a number of times, became such a big topic, but I also understand it. I also understand.
Do you get a lot of unsolicited advice or just unsolicited statements about marriage or age or businesses or how to potentially?
There is. I'm fortunate that I've built a community of women who are maybe we're aligned in the way we think, or they like the way I think, and that's why they follow me. Because if you follow me, you're seeing a lot of content. So if you don't like that content, which is how I think and what I believe,
it's just who you are.
You're likely not going to follow me, because the rest of the stuff are a small proportion of what I share on social media. And so I get very few of those, but sometimes I do get, some comments around, yeah, but you waited all this time to get married. How are you going to have children, or something like that? But the reality is that, would you rather marry the wrong person and have children and live in a toxic relationship and an unhealthy upbringing for your children, or take your time to find the partner who is compatible with you and where you create a happy life? And we all know that no matter how compatible and amazing, marriage requires work from both.
Absolutely.
And so that is my choice. And if you want to get married at 22 because you want to have children and that works for you, be it. And so it's just, I think it's more about sharing diverse opinions, and some opinions that are not necessarily voiced so much, in order to normalize making the decision that works for you.
Absolutely. And that's it. It's everybody's journey is completely different.
Exactly.
Everybody's wants and needs are completely different. And I think it's just that. Sometimes I just find women tend to get the shorter end of the stick when it comes to this.
Yeah, of course.
And this is, like you said, something that there is a shift. You can feel it. But it does require people talking about it, just being okay with it. I mean, what is really age at this point in time? I mean, we feel good, we look good, we're doing way more.
Exactly.
Our lifespan is expanded. So it's a matter of just kind of normalizing it. It's just, I'm not at a point in my life where I'm not doing this or I'm not doing that, and that's okay.
Yes, exactly.
So it's very, very important. And I just find to have agency and to live authentically is probably going to be the most important, whether for any personal decision.
Fulfilling.
Absolutely.
Without a question.
I have to ask, what was the highest point in your career? We're going to go through highs and lows a little bit.
The highest point in my career, I think now is the highest point in my career.
That's so nice to hear.
Yeah. I know that now is the highest point in my career. I can tell you that, when I made the Business of Fashion 500, or when I was on the cover of Forbes, or when I did this and did that. But
I mean, that would have been a really big high point. I hope you have that framed somewhere.
Do you know what? I'll tell you something. When I was on the cover of Forbes, okay, I was going through the worst time in my business. And I talk about this openly just to tell people that just understand that there's so much happening in a person's life. It's not just what you see, right? But right now is the highest point in my career, because I really am doing the thing that I absolutely love, and I've structured my business and everything that I do in a way that works with my life. I can work from anywhere. I've got the flexibility to stop work at a certain time so I can focus on my life, and what I do and the impact of what I do is just something that makes me sleep very, very well at night. I wake up very happy knowing that I do what I do.
Oh, that's so nice.
After 25 years.
I was going to say that's 25 years in, but that's what it is. Yeah, that's amazing. Highest point of your personal life?
My mind is going to the most recent.
So you on the spot here.
So it's finding my life partner.
Yeah.
I think, no matter how independent and strong and amazing and, career driven and ambitious, I think all of us have it in us innately to want to connect, right? The connection is one of our biggest needs.
I think it's a basic need.
It is. Yeah. It absolutely is a basic need. And I think to find someone that you actually enjoy doing life with, I think that's definitely one of the highlights of my personal life.
Well, honestly, congratulations. We keep talking about you guys are just newlyweds, sort of a year and a half in. So it's so lovely. And that's, like you said, I mean, we're social creatures, and all we want to do is connect and have similar connections and similar lifestyles and things like that. And it's so important. And I think whatever choices that you want to make, as long as there is human connection, I think that's honestly the key to success and longevity.
I agree.
And I find
that's why I love community.
Yeah. And I think they were saying that apparently in the US, health is deteriorating and all sorts of things due to lots of factors to do with food and things like that. But a huge one is the lack of community.
Yes.
The lack of connection. It's this isolated living.
Correct.
It is a massive contributor to bad health. So I find that no matter what it is, you want to get married, you don't want to get married, as long as you've got people around you that are going to support you and are going to be there in sort of the days that they need to come and pick you up and, be there for you on a bad day and celebrate the wins wholeheartedly with you. That is winning across the board, I find. I agree. It takes a while to get there, because when you're younger, you're like, oh, it's fine. I can do this. I'm independent. I want to do this on my own. And then you're kind of thinking, nope, it would be really good to tell somebody what just happened, or I've got bad news. I want to share that. So it takes a bit of time.
Yeah. I feel like, I don't know about you, but personally, I feel like when I share, happiness, it amplifies.
Yeah.
It's like it gets bigger.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And what you were saying is 100% right. You were talking about the US, and actually the flip of it is that the biggest predictor of longevity, like, actually your long life is the connection, is that connection.
Absolutely.
It's not the food you eat. It's not the exercise. It's actually that sense of connection and belonging.
There was this, we keep talking about longevity. It's been on my mind so much, but there was this, when you've got these people, I forgot what they're called, but they live past 100.
Yes, yeah.
So there was that community in Sicily.
That story, yes.
And oh my goodness, it's literally, they are hand in hand through life, and that they're happy, living long, living healthy. And I mean, they're not just 100 and on a hospital bed. They're 100 and going up and down the hills and just, I mean, that's life.
It's
really.
Going back to basics.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. We live in a community. It takes a village, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay. So what would you say then, on the flip side, is the lowest point of your career?
Of my career would be closing the Modist, because of an accumulation of things. But yes, it was.
Can I ask, would you ever start it up again?
My God, the number of people that ask me, I don't think so.
But why? I mean, it would be incredible. I think a lot of people would. I mean, the brand is missed.
Yes, the brand is missed. I don't know. I think I've evolved from that space, and I'm doing something that I absolutely love. Um,
I mean, you never know.
I guess you never know. You never know.
But it's on the pipeline at the moment.
It's not on the pipeline.
Okay.
It's not on the pipeline, and I do get the question a lot. But yeah, I don't know. I've kind of moved from it. I mean, there was another business in between, which was the Queen Mode.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I'm gonna share with you something
Yes.
that is not known today, but I think by the time you air,
it's exclusive, guys.
But yeah, that business has been acquired, and we're announcing the acquisition. Well, by tomorrow, I think, or day after tomorrow.
Oh my goodness!
By an amazing platform from our region, Playbook.
Okay. Oh yeah.
So there was that, and then
amazing.
And I feel that.
Congratulations!
Thank you so much. Thank you. Amazing. We're very excited about that. But do you know what it is? I think that I feel like the Modist had to happen to give life to F-Force, because when the Modist closed, one of the things that I did was I was advising and I was mentoring a lot of female founders whose businesses were struggling during COVID. And it was that interaction with over 40, 50 women that gave birth to F-Force, because that's how I created my first course, which was my startup course, so how to start and scale a business. And taking all the knowledge you were talking about, how entrepreneurship, teaches you so much, taking, all these gaps that I had heard from all of these women and putting them into a course. So in a way, I feel that the Modist soul is kind of still with me.
There.
But I understand that the gap is still out there. And, I say never.
Yeah.
But where I am today is, very happy place in my entrepreneurial journey.
And that's the main thing. I find if you are content and if you are comfortable, then it was the right decision almost, you know? Lowest point of your personal life?
Wow. I think the lowest point of my personal life has to do with loss always, whether it's the loss of my maternal grandmother who raised me, or my father or stepdad. I think it's always, for me, very, very few things can bring me down. I think as long as the people that I love around me are happy and healthy, everything else is figure outable, as they say. So yeah, I think it must be that. Maybe the second one after that was, just recovering from the loss of my business, because I was burnt out. And so my health I was 25 kilos heavier than I should be. I was, burnt out mentally, emotionally. And so, it was that period of kind of like picking up from there. But then, it was such a beautiful journey to come out on the other.
Yeah. I only ask, I find these questions because, again, you are a public figure and people do see you in a certain light. But like you said, just like you were on the cover of Forbes, you don't know what's going on in the background. You're a human being with a range of different experiences and emotions. And just like everybody else on this planet, good things happen and bad things happen. And it's just one of those things that I find you get lost a little bit with social media, and you start to almost disassociate the human aspect of it. And that's why I asked. I don't mean to pry.
No, it's very relevant. And I always say, I mean, it's not, I think saying don't believe what you see on social media is not necessarily the right statement, but you're seeing a fraction of a person's life. And there is not a single human being who's not going through things, whether it's, adverse or whether it's mild, but there are always challenges. Sometimes it's your personal life. Sometimes it's your career. Sometimes it's your mental health. It's a loved one's mental health. Things happen all the time. So I think it's short-sighted for anyone who's in the receiving end in social media to think that this is her life and it's, this is it. And I want to be that. everybody has something that they are struggling with. And what we see on social media is a sliver of their lives.
1000%. I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, even it's more so I get worried about the younger the younger generation. It's now at a point where even now I sometimes get quite intimidated, and I'm a fully grown adult, let alone developing minds, that type of thing. That's where I find, look, I think social media is a double-edged sword. I think it's wonderful. It brings people together. It brings communities together. People can find each other, and it's incredible. On the flip side, it does have a skewed reality. And that's one thing that I always find. It's almost like everything needs to come with sort of an advisory, sort of err with the side of caution kind of thing. Tell me a little bit about F-Force. Tell me the creation.
The creation is what I had just shared with you, which was that it started in 2020 during COVID. And it started with those conversations with women. With some of the women, I spent months kind of, taking them through the journey of their business and supporting them with their businesses. And with others, it was 1 or 2 conversations. But it was so clear that, especially with female founders, there are a lot of similar knowledge gaps and also similar challenges that we come across. And so I put together that course, and the course had been rolling for a couple of years, and it did really, really well. And then at this stage with, Queen Mode being, done and finishing that part of the journey, I'm entirely dedicated to it. And it's just, it's basically a platform for women who want to grow professionally, who want to evolve, who want to gain skills. And it's all around personal development and entrepreneurship. And, one aspect of it is what you see, which is, the master classes and the courses and all the content that we put out there. And another part of it is actually working with entities to create programs around entrepreneurship, entities that actually have entrepreneurs under their umbrella. So it's just amazing because, it's the accumulation of those 25 years and working with different parties and different communities to kind of, package that in a way that is useful.
That's amazing.
It's very fulfilling. It's amazing. And it's so exciting.
Yeah. Do you find that mentorship, I feel like it suits you? Do you truly enjoy it?
I have a teacher in me. I have a little teacher that's dying to come out. I don't get to do it often, but I do enjoy
sharing experiences
helping.
As well. Yeah.
I really enjoy helping. I find a lot of fulfillment in someone coming to me wanting some answers, knowing that I was there and I know, and I'm going to tell you the shortcut, like do this. And this is what my courses are about. Like part of it is, it's not so much theory, but it's about, okay, as a woman, when you want to go and fundraise, this is what you need to know.
Yeah. I mean,
this is what they don't tell you elsewhere. These are the challenges you're going to face. And this is where you can source your investors or you can find them. It's really practical, but, solid knowledge. And, there's also an incredible community. And with F-Force, it's the closest community to my heart and vice versa. I'm very close to the F-Force community.
Yeah.
It's very exciting. It's very exciting as a business in terms of growth and in terms of potential and
where you could potentially get to as a business.
F-Force just feels like this soft, beautiful thing, but it's a beast compared to even like, Queen Mode. And, it's such a beautiful, strong business. And this is one of the things that I actually want to put out there at some point, whether it's in the form of a course or whatever it is. But there is this thing around being, having to work 24/7 to get to what you want. And sometimes you can work less and actually make your business far more successful.
Well, yeah.
In terms of profitability, in terms of everything, compared to the hustle of, different type of business models. Yeah.
The whole point, trimming the fat, being a bit more efficient. Yeah. Trying to find out where are the gaps of wasting time or inefficiency and really hone in on trying to drive efficiency. And honestly, I find it's kind of what works for you.
Yeah.
If there are moments where you feel, we're going to just do all of whatever it is that needs to be done within a span of whatever many hours. And I find that is the biggest the idea of this work environment where, you know, you have to pull all-nighters and you can't take breaks and you can't do this hustle hard culture.
Yeah.
It's not sustainable. It's overrated. I find the majority of the time it's quite inefficient. And it's almost like if you just actually look at your day in a period of 24 hours, you can really find pockets of time to be very productive.
Yeah.
And it's identifying those moments. That's key, I think.
Yeah. And the systems that will enable you to do that.
Yeah.
For sure.
You spoke a little bit about women and struggle, you know, women, usually female entrepreneurs face. What is the biggest struggle? Can you pinpoint?
So look, there are so many challenges, right? When it comes to female founders and women in entrepreneurship, and we know there's a gender gap. There are challenges when it comes to fundraising. It's probably one of the biggest challenges in entrepreneurship is getting funding. Just because a sliver of what exists out there in terms of funds are allocated to women. It's about 2%, and it's a very problematic space. It's 2%. It's less than 2% of the funding globally that we receive as female founders, and yet actually we outperform when we are funded. So 30% overperformance, I believe, to our, counterparts, male counterparts. So there is all of that. But, there is also the fact that a lot of times we are the ones in our own way, and we don't take the first step because we want to perfect things, because we have fear of judgment, because we have fear of failure, because we lack confidence, because we have imposter syndrome. And so I think a lot of times, like, I understand the problem of fundraising, but this problem is one that I tackle through what I do, because I think that don't be the person that's standing in your own way, because we have so much unlocked potential or blocked potential.
I mean, it's unlocked potential.
Unlocked potential, right? And so, and we've got it in us to actually take the step and be daring and take risks and invest and start businesses and do all of that. I mean, what we've got as women is very, very powerful, but we just need to kind of get out of our own ways and take those first steps. And I find that that's one of the challenges that we have. Many women have.
I can totally see that. I mean, even in a space, I mean, I feel, with a podcast, it is a female based podcast. I would say a lot of my listeners are all, I think the statistics showed it was something like 92% female listeners.
Yes.
So, and the common thread that the majority of, including myself, the majority of women, it is this whole imposter syndrome, and it's all you.
Yes.
It's your perception of yourself as opposed to the ability that you have to share.
Correct.
It's a difficult one, and it's hard to, I don't know. I think it might be, again, it's generational, and it's quite difficult to unlearn it almost, but it's having courses and a community and workshops around this, I find very helpful.
Yeah, I agree. I think community is a very big one. And also, I think just understanding that everybody starts from zero.
Yeah.
Not a single person that you see that's successful started knowing it all or being comfortable or having confidence. And every successful person you see out there has an insecurity somewhere.
Absolutely.
So, and confidence isn't built by... Actually, confidence is built by just taking that next step, just the first step. Forget about where you're going to be in, 10 steps from now. It's just the next one. And just, get out of that comfort and start like pushing and pushing. And that's what happens. That's how you gain confidence. And I think it's one of those things that I repeatedly see. And I feel that just unlock that.
Yeah.
And then it's going to flow.
Oh, I need to come to the courses.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will. I'm coming. What does success mean to you?
A sense of fulfillment. A sense of fulfillment.
Across the board.
Across the board. Yeah. I mean, it's not necessarily accolades or amounts of money or certain lifestyle. It's a sense of fulfillment that you get from doing the things that you love, having relationships that are fulfilling, having a nice circle of people around you, feeling that you are living, as opposed to just, being, as opposed to just doing.
Yeah.
I think that's what success is.
I think it's also being comfortable in your own skin.
Agreed.
There's a lot of the times, we are the sum of our experiences. Yeah. And I find, yes, of course, life goes up and down and some experiences are awful and some are great. But at the end of it, am I comfortable with who I am? Yeah. Where we stand today?
Yeah.
And that, honestly, I find it's one of those things that we work our whole life to get to. That's one thing that if you were to ask me what is one thing as a mother, I would want to teach my children. It's just that being comfortable with who you are, liking who you are, what you give society, what you give to your friends and partners and whatever it might be. That self-awareness a little bit, I find goes a long way. And I find it does trickle in all aspects of your life. So it's just, you're right. The material things, the statistics, the whatever it might be, if all the rest of it is not there, it's going to mean nothing.
Exactly. It's nice. It's nice to work and to achieve, and
for sure.
And also it depends on your values, right? Yeah. But ultimately it's about that feeling of
that feeling of being happy. Yes. I did good things. People around me value me. It's those qualities I find.
How are you contributing?
Exactly. And that's impactful. And I find that gives you confidence to potentially take riskier business decisions. True. Or to go out there because you've got confidence to know that, I'm not pretending to be anybody else. Yeah. This is who I am. And this is what I can offer almost, so I can talk about this all day. And I find it's just, I've got like a time constraint on you, but it's so nice to be able to see that evolution, the evolution of going from a place that traditionally is focused on numbers and profit and all of that. And then all of a sudden you're in a softer, more inward place where you are, empowering women to unlock their potential. It's such a beautiful transformation.
Yeah, it's a journey. And I really think that, you just have to do it bit by bit. And then ultimately you get to where you want to go.
Yeah. Yeah. What does empowerment mean to you?
Empowerment.
Yeah. Or female empowerment, but empowerment generally.
I've used that word a lot in the past, and I feel that we are powerful as women. We really are powerful. We need more enabling maybe sometimes, but I think to me, just, being able to connect with women and to work with women and to enable in any shape or form, but also this is learning for me and this is growth for me and this is a journey that inspires me as well. And so in a way, it's kind of very there's a give and take. Forth, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And there's reciprocity there. And it's I think that there's so much that we could do together as women in order to uplift each other. And I'm seeing more of that. These days.
I feel like I could literally keep you here for another 4 hours and have this incredible conversation. But I always end the interview with a quote. Okay. So my quote, it always sort of gives a little bit of a context to what we were talking about and the conversation in general. Mine is, it's not the question. No, the question isn't who's going to let me, is who's going to stop me.
Oh, I like that.
Right? You are unstoppable.
I really like it.
So that's mine. And I always ask a quote that you either live by or something that always kind of resonates in your mind.
Yeah. So I'm very big on gratitude and I talk about it all the time. And it's a practice on a regular basis. And I've heard this quote recently that I loved. It's so simple. It says, what you appreciate appreciates.
I love that. That is so true.
Simple.
Yeah. And you can apply it to everything.
Everything.
Oh, it's perfect. To close, if you had one piece of advice to women on the brink, the woman who's listening to this, who is, is ready, but that first step is just so difficult to take. Ready in the sense that whether she's a working woman or if she's in a job and wants to step out a little bit, that first step, what advice would you give that woman who's listening?
I would say do it scared.
Yeah.
No one takes that first step feeling comfortable. The comfort comes once you're on the other side. There's someone told me once, if you're going through hell, keep going.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that it's hell, but if you're going through a difficult thing, just take that step. Just keep walking.
Just keep going.
And then that's it.
Yeah.
That's
perfect. Because if you do take that first step and you came out okay, that gives you confidence for the next one.
That's exactly how confidence is built.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ghizlan, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having
me.
For this beautiful conversation.
Oh my goodness. It was absolutely, honestly, I feel like I'm going to end this and drive home thinking, yeah, that was just.
Let's get on a call.
Yeah, exactly. I need to do something. No, but it really did speak to every aspect of life. And I find that hearing people's experiences and stories and how they got to places, especially within the region, I find really empowering. And you are one of those people. You are in general, with the ups and downs and everything, a successful human being.
Thank you.
And to be able to kind of share your story and inspire others. I think that's what this whole podcast was all about.
Yeah,
so
we all need inspiration. And thank you for this amazing podcast and for keeping this inspiration trickling into our lives.
Tiny little contribution, but hopefully, inshallah, we'll get bigger and bigger.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to They Say It Takes a Village. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I look forward to bringing you another one next week. Don't forget, please subscribe, rate, and review so I can reach and help even more parents. And if you've got a topic that you'd like me to cover, please head over to my Instagram page, ittakesavillage.me, and drop me a line.